Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all to the atrium here in City Hall. We are joined today by our Codes Administrator, Dave Patton, and by Captain Cleary with the Police Department. The Chief is currently tied up in a pressing emergent matter and can't join us here today. We are here because we are announcing the creation of a new housing court for the City of Harrisburg. This is unprecedented. There was a housing court years ago, but it did not have the scale and the scope of this housing court. Basically, the previous housing court was somewhat voluntary, and this is not. All non-traffic, codes-related citations for the City of Harrisburg will be going to this one court. The advantage of that is enormous for the citizens of this city. It's going to reduce the backlog in cases that all of our magisterial district justices have, and it's going to provide for a consistency in sentencing. And Mr. Patton can talk more about that, but one of our issues in our war and blight here in the city is that we can't get consistent sentencing, or at least we haven't had it up to this point when it comes to code citations. And with that consistent sentencing, we believe we will have real accountability for codes violators in the City of Harrisburg. It's also going to do something very important. By having a regular weekly time in which this court meets, it's going to make it so much more efficient for our codes officers. They're going to be able to know when they need to appear. They're going to be able to go one place. They're going to be able to focus on it being one day a week. And they're not going to be sitting around in courtrooms and having various cases continued. And all of that time savings is going to allow them to be doing more inspections, issuing more citations, and getting more done with the same number of officers. So the efficiency is really, really key. And then finally, I think it's incredibly important to point out that we are hoping this court will act as a deterrent. Nobody is going to want to go to housing court. Nobody is going to want those stiffer, more consistent sentences. And as a result, hopefully they will voluntarily address their citations before they're issued. And the court is going to start on Monday, May 5th, which is why we're announcing it now, to give everyone a little bit of notice. And the way it's going to work is all new cases starting on Monday will be transferred to this new court. All old cases, outstanding cases, will stay with the current district justice where they are. So the switchover point is Monday. And it's happening in what some people call the night court or the county court out on Mall Road. But since I was asked this question, I think I need to tell you, this is not happening at night. It's just happening in that courtroom. It'll happen during regular business hours, one day a week. They haven't set the exact day or the exact time when it's going to meet, but the two district justices, which have been assigned each to half of the city, will be able to work out the times and announce that next week. So those are some of the highlights. This is a signature piece in our war on blight. It was one of the first things we talked about when taking office, and it's required a lot of behind-the-scenes work and coordination, especially with the county, and we want to thank the Dauphin County Courts for its cooperation, its recognizing the importance of establishing this housing court and making it a priority, because really to have done this within the first 100 days shows just how much everyone is in sync in working together to wage this war on blight. I'm going to let our Codes Administrator make a few remarks, and then we'll be very happy to take your questions about the housing court. Let me introduce Dave Patton.
Thank you, Mayor. It's hard to improve upon what the mayor just said. We're so thankful that with the cooperation of the county. This is something we envisioned for forever, actually, and we always thought it was a bridge too far. But we're enormously grateful of all the cooperation. What a lot of people don't understand is a lot of the codes cases have a lot of circumstances surrounding them. They're not as easy as a traffic ticket or a parking ticket. They require a little bit more focus. And that's not to be disingenuous to the district justices, because they have an overwhelming caseload, and a lot of these particular codes issues require a little bit more focus. So we think with this structure, we're going to get consistency, fairness, and accountability. I think that'll lend to the complexion of the city. Obviously, this is a real shot of morale in the arm for my staff. they're pretty much of the mind that, for once we were rudderless, now we have a direction. And I'm just so grateful, that to be here during this particular time that's a milestone and unprecedented.
And that direction is coming through the police department and through the chief, who could not be here today. But Captain Cleary is here in case you have any questions about the logistics of the warrants or how things are working, or any other questions about the war on blight. But let's open it up for a conversation about the housing court. Thoughts, questions? Yes, sir.
Dave, would you mind speaking again what it's really doing for your department? Considerably down the
Just as I said, it gives a lot of consistency. A lot of our cases get joined, with a lot of other issues at the district justices, and sometimes a lot of the nuances of the cases can get lost. And because of the fact that there's maybe 5 district justices, you have that level of inconsistency in application of some of the fines or dispositions of the cases. And we think just having 2 district justices just hear all cases, we're going to get that level of consistency and fairness with each of the cases. That, again, I think it'll lend to a positive complexion of the city.
Are you going to have a certain number of cases or a timeline how far they're going to take back to go to the new housing court?
Everything from Monday forward will go to the housing court. Everything that's already existing will remain with their court as we slowly migrate over to full housing court for all instances. But we have to close out. Some of the cases will be closed out periodically over time. And then, like I said, with May 5th, everything that's generated from the codes office will go to the district justice. And it's not an inordinate amount of caseload. First part this year we had 67 cases. Last year we had 167 cases. The year before that we had 497. So it pretty much, it depends on each year. It kind of fluctuates from year to year depending on the need and the situations out in the city.
And just want to introduce Troy Petery, who's in the back. Troy, would you like to come up and just say a few words on behalf of the court? All right. Well, Troy was very instrumental in helping coordinate things on the district justice level. And we met early on behind the scenes, talked about a joint vision for the city, and he got it done. So thank you very much. Other questions? Yes, sir.
What are some examples of what these violations would be that would go through this court?
All non-traffic codes-related complaints. And one type of complaint, which I think is important to understand, it's called the housing court, but we just discussed it. It will also be trash. Citations for high grass or trash. And that is a major issue in Harrisburg. There's been a lot of concern that perhaps the citations that are issued are not taken as seriously as they should be. And we've had a conversation about how greater consistency and enforcement of citations for trash will be very helpful in that effort. You want to talk about other general types of citations?
Pretty much everything within our property maintenance code, which would be anything tenant, landlord related, anything exterior or interior of the properties. It's pretty much everything that we see from day to day. And if you drive down the streets, anything in the exterior or dilapidated with their structures, these will all go to the housing board. Well, we have a rental inspection program, so not the rental complaint with the landlord, but anything related to our rental inspection ordinance. Everything that was adopted by the Bureau of Codes will go through the housing court.
So there's a need for a fire escape or some sort of citation related to safety.
And so how do you think this will bring more accountability to the property owners?
Because right now we just have inconsistency between the various district justices in terms of the citations, how they're treated, the amount of the fines. All of that will become regularized and consistent and stronger. And that is going to, I think, act as a deterrent. And it's also going to bring about accountability, because if you violate our codes in the city of Harrisburg, you will be fined. You won't have your citation dismissed. You won't have your citation treated as something not important. It's going to be treated seriously, and it's going to be fined in such a way that you will not want to come back to housing court.
You're going to go after some of these, you talk about blatant city, a lot of these homeowners are from out of state or out of the country, and come back on factories and city housing court.
Well,
That actually be, this is our first evolution. That'll be the second evolution, but it's going to be most challenging because there's where we're going to be more fully able to do this is lobby the legislators for a reform of how properties are transferred in the way they are now. Because quite honestly, the tax sale, when that comes around, the people, the speculative purchasers that buy their sort of the pile of fish for blight, they get it and then they hand it off to somebody else. So that's going to be a larger piece, and we're fully up to the challenge, and that's our next evolution. We have the momentum now. And I'm fully confident, we'll be addressing that situation.
And I've spoken to Senator Teplitz and Representative Kim about introducing legislation that would help address that. It does have to be addressed on the state level, but if we can get those tools, we would be very happy to utilize them.
Could David walk us through what his office can do in front of the district justice?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yep.
It's not, we're all, not all about fines. Okay, that's one of the things, we're not all about fines. But what happens is a lot of times some of the fines that are issued are actually less than it would take to do something with the property. So we have to issue another citation. So it's constant. But again, if a property owner has a maximum fine applied to them, let's just say, like, to give you an example, the Susquehanna Street situation, where they were only given, a very meager fine. If there was a maximum fine applied and then held in abeyance until the project was complete, we wouldn't be at this particular point right now. Then we would be more than happy to have a reduction in fine. We want to see the money put into the property. We definitely want to see the money into the property. We want the violations abated. So we're not all about fines. We just want to get, first of all, some accountability and have them do what they need to do.
So in that example, the maximum fine is sort of like held over the head of the event.
Exactly.
Are there other ways that it's more difficult in traffic, other circumstances that make it hard to get parts of the justice to be consistent?
Well, a lot of times, like I say, a lot of the stuff that we see is on view, so we're not really knowledgeable of who the occupants are. There could be situations of indigents, there could be situations of the elderly. Obviously that's not something we're not interested in penalizing some. We'll look for other avenues to try and give them assistance. But this is more attuned to the more recalcitrant individuals that consistently defy our direction and the orders to correct their property. And I believe it's going to go over very well.
Logistically, so if there's a code citation, does it automatically go to the staff report? You say you're trying to work with these people who go out there, is there like a free charge system?
Well, first of all, most of the time we're going to issue a notification, and then if it's not abated or complied with in prescribed time, then a citation is generated, and then that will go to the housing court. And just like any other kind of citation, they'll have 10 days to enter a plea. And if they plead guilty, they're just going to pay the fine through the mail. If not, it's going to be a hearing, and then of course we'll be at the hearing to discuss the matters and see what the dynamics are of that particular case. A lot of times they say they are very complex. They're just not all that cut and dry all the time.
Have you looked at another municipality, whether it's Pennsylvania or somewhere, that has a success with this? I think Baltimore has a housing court similar.
Pittsburgh does.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh has one. They've been very successful with it. We've actually had people going out there for some other matters, and their housing court's working extremely well.
I can say I was at a housing forum with the mayors of Lancaster, York, and Lebanon yesterday, and the topic of our housing court came up, and they were very interested. They're going to be looking closely at what we're doing, and hopefully it can be precedent setting for the region.
Can you say also how the two judges were selected?
Yes, I believe it was due to their willingness and their own caseloads, so that they actually had time to be able to devote a portion of their week to deal with housing-related cases. Is that fair to say? Yeah.
Was the fact that they're also out of the city?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We wanted a degree of distance from the immediacy of what was going on, so that there could be that sort of impartial application of justice. There's no question that that's a part of what's happening here, and we think it's going to be beneficial.
Predecessor Mayor Johnson wanted to have a wall of shame for the longest time, is there anything like that? And if we had vendors going up here in the housing court,
I don't know if we're going to use shame. That's not our number one deterrent mechanism. We're going to make sure that nobody wants to go to the housing court, and that seems like a more effective deterrent. Yes.
Is this new court in any way related to the Sullivan case, or did it, was it spawned from there, or?
No. Our conversations preceded that. I mean, literally, this was, a day one type of conversation. We looked at the types of things that we could do within the first 100 days that would have the greatest impact on the war and blight. And this was Dave's idea. This is something which he has wanted for a long time. And we agreed, and we met with Judge Hoover, we met with other members of the court, and we said, let's make this a priority. And frankly, to have gotten this done as quickly as we've gotten it done just shows how everybody is working very well together and coordinating. I think we have an unprecedented level of cooperation now between the city and the county court system.
And what's the cost? Does it have any cost to the city or the county, or?
It is at no cost to the city, and we're using a courtroom which is already basically staffed. This is the county night court, or the county court that is out there on Mall Road. It already had all the support staff. We talked about, well, let's have it here, in the public safety building. But that would have required an additional cost, whereas we could just simply utilize resources that were already allocated. Great. Well, thank you for coming and covering our press conference, and we will see you at the next one.